Hello, and thank you for joining us for another HRS training video. Today we are going to cover macros. So macros are a very useful, powerful tool in our system, mainly because one, they can execute multiple commands, and two, because they're used throughout other portions of our system. So in the scheduling features, custom JavaScript logic, and basic logic, macros are all required and needed for those. So let's start by with the macros. So for the macros, if you click on that, you'll notice there's two subcategories. The first category is just macro categories. So this allows you to create multiple categories just for organizational purposes. As you scale and make a larger configuration, having the categories makes it much easier to find and locate things. The next option is your macro options. So macro options will allow you to select a startup macro from the dropdown once you have them created. So that way when the system starts up after you press the apply all, it'll execute that macro, which is definitely useful for using like a login command or a connection command for a device. So for the macros, we'll click on this. To add one, you simply click the green plus. You'll have a new macro created. We can edit the name. So let's call this on. And you'll also notice when you do have the edit selected, you can change what category you put that into. So if you make it for one category and want to change it later, you can always do that. So we'll save the name, go over here to the right and click the green plus next to actions. So in our system, we have three devices. We have a projector, a TV, and a matrix. And we're going to perform three actions for the power on. So the first thing that we're going to do is turn the projector on. So we'll add the command here. The next thing we're going to do is a switch on the matrix. So we're going to perform a switch and put input 1 to output 1. And the last thing we're going to do is turn on the television. So we have all three of our commands added in here. Next, we'll want to add a power off macro. So we can do this two options. First option is click the green plus, click on the macro, edit the name, add the three actions just like we did before. Or the other option is to select the on macro and there's a copy button here. And it'll copy the macro over. All you have to do at that point is edit the name and then save it and edit the commands that are in there. Using the copy is definitely nice as you create larger and bigger macros because then it saves you time as you go. So let's change the projector here to off. We're going to change the matrix switch. Let's say we wanted to switch to input 2, and we're going to change the TV command to power off. So we have both of those macros created. The other option that we have in these is to set a follow time. So in the off, since we're just shutting everything off at say the end of the day or whenever we're done with it, we're going to leave the follow times all to 0. So that way it sends all three commands to all three devices at the same time. For the on command, however, let's say we need to warm up our projector first and it takes 30 seconds for it to start up the projector. So let's add 30-second delay. And then what that'll do is send the power on command to the projector. It'll wait 30 seconds. Then it's going to turn the TV on and switch the input on the matrix. So those get done at the same exact time for those follow commands. If you're sending multiple commands to the same device, sometimes you'll need to add a delay in between those commands so that it can process each command as it comes through. So you can set this follow time anywhere from 0.1 seconds all the way up to multiple minutes if needed. Now that we have our two macros created, we can go back to our control surfaces and we'll right click and add a button, and we'll make this the on. And then we're going to add the command to execute the macro. So instead of adding a device that we've manually added into the enterprise system, we'll pick the system as the device, which the system is always there. You don't need to add it. It's defaulted into our enterprise servers to always be there for you. Under the command, you'll notice that we have it set up in different categories. These are all different functions and things that we can do from our system depending on what you're trying to do. So from executing macros, setting variable values, executing logic, all different options for you. So let's pick the execute macro command and we'll select the power on macro. And let's add a second command here. and we'll do commands, and we're going to add system, and we will execute the off macro, and we'll change the name here. So now we have our on and off buttons. We can click the apply all. It'll take all of our changes, and you'll be ready to use and operate the macros. Now say you create the macros and they're not working the way you wanted, or you need to reconfigure and test it as you go. If you click on the macros, you'll notice there's a green arrow for the execute option. You'll see as I click it, it says macro executed successfully. This is useful when you're building these complex systems so that you can test as you go. So you don't have to go back and refresh the page and change everything. You can adjust your timing as you need, click the execute, see it happen, and then adjust if needed. So it's definitely a useful tool when building out larger, more complex systems for you. So that about covers macros. If you need any further help, please email us at support@hrscontrol.com.